Hey, everybody. Hey, it is your girl, Mrs. Ann, and I am the visionary of Smack Talk, where Smack stands for sisters, mothers, aunts, and cousins. And my mission is to affirm, confirm, mold, and motivate you to be all you created to be. And my goal is simply to encourage and support women by building trust in relationships throughout the globe. And I do this through platforms such as this, Smack Talk with Mrs. Ann. And tonight, I am super excited because number one, this is my first interview, my first live interview with somebody after this long hiatus from Smack Talk with Mrs. Ann, simply because I needed to work on some stuff regarding myself, right? So again, this is the return of a long hiatus from being away from you guys, but I am back, and we're going to keep this momentum going into 2022. Also want to say to you guys, be on the lookout. There's something new, fresh, and exciting coming to you from Smack Talk with Mrs. Ann. I am going to be hosted on Spreading the Gospel Network. Day and time is to be announced, but be on the lookout for that. But tonight, drum roll, I am going to be sitting with you guys and chatting with my accountability partner, Miss Chatney White, author from Delayed But Not Denied, How to Remain Diligent Through Setbacks and Disappointments. And let me tell you guys, this story, okay, this story, you would have to know Chatney. You would have to know Chatney. But her story is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. And I'm going to bring her on because I'm going to have her to introduce herself to you guys, okay? All right, y'all just hold up a minute. Just hold up a minute, okay? Because I'm telling you, my girl, she gonna bring the fire for y'all, okay? Hey, Chadney. I was just introducing you to my audience, and I want you to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Hello, everyone, and good evening. As Mrs. Ann said, my name is Chatney White, and I am the founder and CEO of Grown and Sanctified Divas Network, where Diva stands for Determined, Inspired, Virtuous, and Anointed Sisters. And my
Yes.
overall mission is to encourage, equip, as well as to empower women across the globe on how to not only become, but to also remain determined, inspired, virtuous, and anointed, as well as to help push you towards fulfilling your kingdom assignment while living your best life now. That's who I am, and that's what I'm about.
Yes. And that is so awesome. You know, I'm a little bit older than you, and I always tell you this. I'm not ashamed to tell you this. I look up to you. I love just watching you as you glow and grow. You are such an amazing woman of God to me, and honestly, I wish that I was like you when I was younger. I really do. You I just love you. Like I love you. You are so the person that I would have wished to have been when I was much younger. And so um you you wrote this story. You have this story that you have written about your life. And in the midst of this, because first of all, let me just let people know I met Chatney through Trailblazers Coaching Academy. Shout out to our life coach,
TCA.
Carla R. Cannon, the Trailblazer.
Yes.
And Chatney, through a whole lot of opposition, let me tell y'all, TCA is not an easy program to go through. Okay.
It's not.
You have to be committed to something or you will fall for anything, for real, for real. Chatney ended up being the Trailblazer of the Year. And
Trailblazer of the
literally,
year. This is my award actually behind
yes,
me.
yes. And
Trailblazer of the
it
year.
wasn't easy. It wasn't easy.
It
And
was not
every
at
time
all.
I share her story with people because like it literally gives me chills. Um, because God is so strategic in what he does and he knows what we need when we need it. And so just because of that transition that she went through, she is able to sit here and do what she's doing today. And that is to come before you guys and be transparent, be open and transparent about the things that she's gone through and her life. Her life is literally a living testimony of the goodness and the grace of God. And so I want to ask you, Chatney, we all have a story to tell, but what is your story about? Like what tell us about Chatney as a person.
All right, all right. So my story. So I'm gonna try to keep it not too long because I don't want to have you all here all night. But basically, my story and about Chatney. Uh, well, I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina. I've been living in North Carolina most of my life. I would say that I pretty much had the traditional upbringing as far as I had both of my parents in my home, my whole entire childhood and upbringing. Both of my parents are actually still married today. Have been married almost 40 years. I have
Awesome.
three other siblings. So I mean, I grew up in a pretty traditional and a good background overall. My parents, they instilled good values in us and good morals. Uh, Growing up and going to church, that was our norm. So I would say that early on, our family was probably, would be considered somewhat a religious. So that's pretty much, my background and growing up. For me, even before I actually gave my life to Christ, and I gave my life to Christ at an early age. I got saved at the age of 12, and I understood salvation, and I knew what it meant at that time, and I wasn't forced upon me. My parents didn't threaten me or anything like that. But of course, like I said, because I grew up in church and we went to church on a regular basis, and the church that we were going to, we did have a pretty good youth department or youth ministry, and they went over salvation with us and talked about it. And I remember being presented with that. And I'm gonna keep it all the way 100, y'all. They showed us the movie of Being Left Behind, and I was like, I don't want to be left behind. I was only preteen, teenage, preteen, but I knew enough to know if I don't do this and I'm gonna be left behind, I'm gonna do whatever I gotta do to not be left behind. And that was just my mindset, at that age. So I was like, yes, I'm gonna give my life to God. I'm gonna get saved and all that good stuff because all I know is I don't want to be left behind. And that's just keeping it all the way 100. So of course, like
That's
most people,
funny.
as I grew up and I went through my teenage years and I went through high school and college, once I got into college, and I left home and I was kind of away from home and able to do my own thing. Like most 18, 19-year olds, I just want to do my own thing now. I'm away from home. My parents can't tell me what to do. I'm an adult, so to speak. So I can do what I want. So I went through that stage where when I was away from home, I just was like, I'm gonna do my own thing. Now I wasn't out here loose and doing a whole bunch of, a whole lot
Mhm.
of, as coach would say. I had a really good strong foundation, so I never really got all the way loose and involved in a whole bunch of stuff like that. I never did go all the way off the deep end or nothing like that, but I experimented in some things. I did some things that I most people in that age do, going to the clubs, maybe partying here
Right.
and there, maybe drinking here and there, stuff like that. uh, Engaging in premarital sex as well as to keep it all the way 100. So I did those things. I did a lot of those things that we know that we're not supposed to do at
Yeah.
that age, but because they said you're young, 18, 19, 20, it's like, okay, this is my time to have fun. I'm gonna do me. My parents, they can't hear, they can't tell me nothing. So I went through that stage and that phase of my life. But it was while I was at college and I got connected with and I became friends with two girls there, and we all started to go to this church there in the area, and they had a really 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 strong college ministry, and somebody
Wow.
that we knew saw us on campus one day and invited us to come to this ministry, this church. And
Mhm.
so we went there for one service, and after that we was hooked. Like I
Wow.
said, they had a really good, strong college ministry. I never seen anything like it. The pastor was real, raw, and relatable. And as a college student, as someone at that age, that's what they need. They don't need nobody to give them a whole lot of fluff. They don't need anybody that's gonna, you know, tickle their fancy or not tell them the
Right,
truth.
right.
They're going to be somebody that's going to keep it real with them and tell them like it is. And that's what the pastor of this ministry did. And so I started going there my sophomore year of college and throughout the remaining time of my college years. And that's when I rededicated my life to God. And that's when I truly became sold out and on fire for God. And ever since then, I pretty much been on fire for God. And yes, have I went through stages where I was in a backsliding condition? Yes, I have. But no matter what things I encountered, I always went back to that. And for some reason, even when I was out here doing things that I knew I shouldn't have been doing, I never really had any peace about it. I always felt like,
Yes.
I'm not supposed to be doing this. I always felt out of place.
Out of element. Yeah.
I knew I wasn't supposed to be, and I was around people that were doing things that I knew I was supposed to be doing. I always felt out of place.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something that I just could not ignore. And so I thank God at that time that He placed, some good friends around me that also were on that same path as me, that also had that desire and wanted to, grow and develop their relationship with God, because that helped me, especially being in my college years. Because a lot of times people, when you're around that age and you don't really have anybody around you on that same path or journey, and there's already so much peer pressure, it's hard to walk the straight and narrow path when you don't really have anybody around you that you can see that's walking it with you. So that
Right, right.
but
Yep.
having that strong foundation that I grew up in, and having that growing up, helped me to, even when I may have strayed away here or there, I always came back to that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, and you made the point about having grown up in a Christian home, and like for myself, I grew up growing up in the Word of God, and I can remember you talked about watching the movie Left Behind, and I can remember when I was like 7 and 8 years old, there was some kids in the neighborhood that was younger than me, and it was three of them, and I would get these little kids together, and I would do these Bible studies with them. And I remember the one particular neighbor comes to my mom's house, and she told my mom, she said, um, I need you to stop having Antoinette do Bible study with so and so. I'm not going to say her name. Stop doing Bible study with so and so. And my mom said, well, why? She said, because she told her that gambling is wrong. And I will never forget this particular day. I was teaching the kids about what casting lots meant. Mind you, I was a kid. Nobody had
Right.
explained to me what casting lots meant, but I understood it meant that they was placing a bet. They were placing a wager for Christ's robe.
Right.
Like I knew that. And so you talk about growing up in this Christian environment, but a lot of times we think that some people think that because you grow up in a Christian environment, that makes you immune to making mistakes, but it's not. As a matter of fact, the enemy is probably going to be more after you than he
Right.
is anybody else,
We're gonna come for
because
you harder.
you have a purpose there. God has a plan for your life. Not that he doesn't have a plan for all of our lives, but you understand what I'm saying. Like, he has a reason for us going through the things that we go through. And so you told us about like who Chatney is. So why did you feel the need to pen this work? Why did you feel the need to do that? Because I know for myself as an author, my thing was it was therapeutic. It was, not only was it therapeutic, but my purpose was, I felt like if I've gone through this, somebody else has gone through this, and somebody else needs to know that there's hope. What was your purpose? Y'all see the book? Look at my baby. She's so cute.
Stop it. All right. So my purpose for penning my story and putting this in the book to share with others is, number one, because I wanted to be able to help I wanted to be able to show and provide an example to someone out there who may, be like me, who, I was considered, like I said before, I grew up in a Christian home, I was taught the right things, went to church, did all of that. And I never really got in much trouble growing up. Anyway, let me just say this, even before I really got saved for real, I always had this strong desire to do right. Like I always had this strong desire. And I don't know if that's probably just something that God just put within me, because of what he has ultimately called me to do. Even
Mm-hmm.
before I really, really got saved for real, and was, really, truly sold out, I always had this desire to do right. And when I was doing things that, I knew were wrong, because, we all know right from wrong. Once we get to a certain age, right from wrong. Okay. Nobody
Right.
really has to tell you that, So even when I was doing things that I knew were wrong, I never really felt good. It's like I could not. For the most part, I never really enjoyed doing wrong. Some people, I believe they do kind of
They
enjoy
enjoy it.
wrong,
They do.
enjoy it, or they don't really really feel bad about it, like
Yeah.
whatsoever. But I was one of those people that I will always feel bad, inwardly when I'm doing stuff that I knew that was wrong. And so, just so thinking of that and considering, so I'm the person that people look at as being, Miss Goody Two Shows, always, always doing the right thing, always, got it together, all that good stuff. And so fast forward, after I graduated from college, done with all that, and I eventually moved back home, that's when I met my daughter's father. So for those of y'all that don't know, I have a daughter. She's 11 years old. She's my only child. When I met her father back in 2009, it was totally, totally just, you know, came just from out of nowhere as far as me meeting him. Um, but basically, yeah, so from me being this person that was considered a goody two shoes and always having it together, always doing the right things. And in a nutshell, I basically fell off. Well, I felt like I had fell off. I felt like I dropped the ball. I disappointed not only myself, I disappointed God, I disappointed my family, I disappointed so many people. And so I went through this period where I was just beating myself up so bad, inwardly. And of course, nobody knows that or could see that. And I felt like I just messed up and it's just no coming back. And it seemed like after that point, and for a long, long time, I would take 2 steps forward, have to take 3 steps back. It just seemed like no matter
Well,
what I
you
tried to do or whatever I went after or tried to accomplish, nothing was really going right in my life. And I felt like, God had forgotten about me, or that, he just put me on the back burner. Or why does it seem like I'm on this extreme delay and I'm not going anywhere and everybody else is like moving light years ahead of me, and I couldn't understand it. So that's why I wrote this book, because I wanted people who may have been in that place that felt like
mm-hmm,
it doesn't matter
mm-hmm.
what I do, it doesn't matter what, it seems like everything around me is just going crazy or not coming together, or I just can't get ahead. God, what's going on? That's why I
What's
wrote this
really
book,
happening?
to show others that there is light and hope at the end of the tunnel. It doesn't matter how you start, it's all about how you
How
finish.
you finish? Wow, that's powerful. It's not about where you start, it's all about how you finish. Can somebody please put that in the comments? It is not about where you start, it's all about how you finish. And please, if you're just coming in, please go ahead and share this video out. I really, really, really want Chatney's story to be heard across the globe, like for real, for real. Um, and I really want people to understand that, you know what, life is not about being perfect. Life is about being purposeful. Again, life is not about being perfect. Life is about being purposeful. It's all
Exactly.
about the purpose that you have been called to do. Thank you so much, Nikisha. Yes, it's not about how you start, it's all about how you finish. There's another one of our alumni, Nikisha Davis is in the house. I've got my daughter Danielle in the house. I have my sister Lauren is in the house. I have my sister Icteria is in the house. You guys, please share out this video. We want women to be encouraged by Chatney's story. Once again, just to recap for you guys, I have Chatney White, CEO of Growing and Sanctified Divas Network, also author of her new book, Delayed But Not Denied. How to remain diligent through setbacks and disappointments. And we all have them. We all have setbacks. We all have been disappointed in life. And you heard her say how she met this guy. She met a boo thing and probably thought that life was getting ready to go real, real good, right? Probably thought, and I know, I ain't gonna say no names, but I know if can't nobody else in the house relate to this, I know one person can. Meet this guy, think that everything is going to be hunky dory, everything is gonna be peaches and cream, and all of a sudden, this joker flipped the script,
Flip the whole
and she
script.
found out he was a whole lot of crazy. He wasn't a little bit of crazy. He was a whole lot of crazy. Can anybody attest to that? I don't want you to wave your hand. I just want you to just put your finger up. Put your one finger up. Okay. And so, Chatney, you talk about, and like I said, you talk about a lot of different things that happen. And so, in the midst of that, you said you get pregnant. So, y'all got to get this book. Y'all have to get this book,
Yes.
right? You got to
Make
get
sure
this
you
book.
get the book.
This girl says she met this dude. I ain't gonna even read it to you. I'm just gonna tell you it's on page 6, okay? But let's just say it was a very short period of time. It was a very short period of time. She meets this guy. If you want to get the book, don't leave the live because I want you to hear the story. But she's going to post a link on where you can get the book. But if you want to go to Amazon and type in Chatney White, follow her on Amazon because I'm pretty sure she's going to have some more literary works that's going to be coming out in the future. But definitely want you to go and purchase the book and then leave a review. But listen, okay? She meet this guy. She ends up getting pregnant, okay? And most of us, bless our hearts, most of us, when we get pregnant, what is the first thing that we think about doing? Making the relationship work, okay? Or you get an abortion because you're trying to cover this. You're trying to, you're trying to make this okay, right? Chatney doesn't leave the guy, or she doesn't stay with the guy and try to make the relationship work. She doesn't get an abortion. She has a beautiful, beautiful baby girl. Her name is Talia. She's my daughter's name twin, and she is an amazing little diva. Love that little girl to death. Matter of fact, tell her she ain't called me in a while. It's so funny because she would call me or text me.
I
She would
believe
have her mama phone. She done got her own phone and she done forgot all about me. But she have her daughter. She has her daughter, and her daughter ends up being the reason behind everything. And so sometimes God has to, like she said, to have you to take a few steps back in order for you to be catapulted to your next level. And so one of the things that you talk about is in the relationship, you find out you're pregnant, and there's kind of these crickets that goes on when you tell him that you're pregnant, and then all of a sudden he flipped the script. Why didn't you try to make that relationship work, Chatney? You're a single mother. You're a woman of God. You're living at home with your parents, and they've raised you a certain way. So you've got family is going to be looking at you different. People are going to be looking at you different because you're supposed to be a Christian. And I said earlier, we got to understand that Christian does not mean perfect. Okay. That does not mean you're perfect. There was only one perfect one, and that was Jesus Christ. So we need not to get that twisted, and we need not pass judgment on people when mistakes happen. Understand that the setback is the setup for God to really do something miraculous in your life. But why did you stay in that relationship? Why didn't you stay in that relationship?
Why didn't I stay in it? There are so many reasons I could give why I didn't stay in it. But let me just go back a little bit. Since we're talking about when I first met and encountered this guy, which is my daughter's father, which actually is the first chapter of my book, A Random Encounter with a Stranger. That's where I start in my book, because that's really where the overall
Yes.
trajectory of my life changed, is when I had this encounter with this stranger, with this man. And everything changed after that. It seemed, initially for the bad, for the worse, but like you said, it was all, just a setup, and God, ended up making everything work together for my good. So
Yes.
long story short, I'm gonna give y'all a quick synopsis of how I had this encounter, and how we met and go forward. So I was out and about one day, minding my own business. I stopped at a car wash to, clean and wash my car, whatever. And so this young man pulls up beside me. It's kind of weird or awkward, but long story short, he gets out the car. We engage in a conversation for a long period of time. And then, against, I would say my better judgment, because I had this feeling like I needed to just go ahead and, exit stage left, or not really continue the conversation past that point. But like a lot of men are, he was very persistent in getting my number. So we end up exchanging numbers. And from there, we started we got involved into a relationship very quickly. And honestly, I can really barely even call it a relationship, but for the sake of a better term, we'll just say, yeah, we got involved in a relationship very quickly. And so, of course, in the beginning, like it always mostly starts out, he's very, attentive, affectionate. We're spending so much time together. He's saying, doing all the right things. And so I was just eating up all of this attention that I was getting from him, because I'm a person that, when it comes to my significant other in relationships, I value and need that attention. That's one of my love languages, is quality time. So anyway, he was, giving me all the things that I wanted and needed in the beginning, was being super nice, all that good stuff. And I didn't recognize it in the beginning that a lot of things were red flags. He wanted to have pretty much all of my free time. He wanted to be around me all the time. He didn't really have a life, outside of work. So he always just wanted to be around me all the time. And so in the beginning, I was just, flattered by it. But then, of course, eventually it kind of started to become a problem. It was kind of become a little bit irritating. So long story short, maybe 2 months after we had met, I found out that I'm pregnant. And
Mm.
it just totally just turned my world upside down, because before all this, I wasn't even thinking about being in a relationship, marriage, none of that, let alone even having a child. And now here I am, mid 20s. I had just recently moved back home. I was living with my parents, only had a part time job, didn't have much money. And now I'm pregnant by a man that I barely know.
Wow.
So imagine how you would feel in that situation. And I'm, like you said, I'm thinking about all these things about what my family, everybody else going to think, but I'm just thinking about how disappointed I am in myself, because I can say I was that person that was like, would say, that's never going to happen to me. Having a child out of wedlock, or let alone by somebody I barely even know, like, to me, that added insult to injury. And I was so ashamed, so embarrassed. And I pretty much almost felt like my world was coming to an end. And how did I allow this to happen?
Mm.
Why did I let my guard down so easily with him? Why did I allow this to happen? And so pretty much after I found out I was pregnant, like you said, that's when he just totally flipped the script, and the true colors really, really came out. He started to be very possessive, very controlling, pretty much verbally abusive. He would talk down to me. He would, you know, cuss me out the drop of a dime. Like, I never knew what may set him off. I felt like I was always walking on eggshells around him. And for me, you know, pregnant or not, I was like, I can't live my life like this. I can't live like this. I'm not going to live being around somebody that I feel like I don't know what's going to set them off. I don't know. I'm walking on eggshells. I don't, I had never experienced anything like that before. This was totally new territory for me. So I had never experienced crazy, but Now that I experienced it, I know how to recognize it quick, fast, and
Right,
hurry. But I was like, no, I was like, I'm not about this life. And even
right.
though I knew I was going to be a single parent and I didn't really have any money, I'm living at home. I was like, I don't know how this is going to work, but I know deep down inside that God had me and that I was going to make it through it. And I just refused to stay in a relationship with somebody and be treated like that. Because even though my self-esteem wasn't really where it is now, I valued myself enough that I wasn't going to stay in a relationship and be treated like that. And above that, I knew that God had better in store for me. I would really say to myself, God, I know this is not what you have in store for me. I know this is not your best for me. I know this is not your will for me. And so that's why I was able to sever and cut that off, because regardless of this being the father of my child, I knew that that wasn't going to be the best situation for me to be in for my mental health, for my physical health, or anything. I knew that if I stayed in that relationship, I probably could end up having a miscarriage. I probably would have went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Okay, it was to keep it all the way real.
Right, right.
And I didn't want to experience none of that. And I knew God had better for me. And when I went to God, and like I said, I even though I wasn't as strong where I'm at in my faith now or in my walk, but I was strong enough to know. And I went to God and I was like, God, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I know you're going to help me and see me through this. And that's what allowed me to be able to break off and sever that relationship. And I also have, a pretty good, strong family support system, which I know everybody doesn't have, but I
Right.
knew my family would be there for me and my child. They may be disappointed or mad at me for a little bit or for a season, but I know regardless, they was going to have my back. And so that helped me. But even above that, knowing that God is my source and knowing that I know he has better for me, I could not allow myself to stay in that relationship. I would have been miserable. And
Yes.
who knows where I would be right now if I would have stayed in that relationship. Like I said, I probably would be somewhere in the cuckoo house or yet holding on, because that's the type of mind games I had to deal with,
Yeah.
dealing with this person, and how I was always up and down. And honestly, I even started to be somewhat fearful. I was fearful and paranoid,
Mm.
because he showed, signs of he had a really bad temper, could be violent. So who's to say if he would have maybe tried to even hurt me physically? I
Right.
saw all those things and I
Right.
knew,
Right.
look, I'm trying to live as long as possible and have the best life. And being with this person, that ain't going to happen. So I
Right.
made
Right.
an intelligent decision. It was a hard and a difficult decision, but I made it. And with the grace and the strength of God, I was able to break it off and walk away from that relationship.
Wow. That, like that, you don't have to go to, you literally don't have to go to any other chapter of the book. Just staying right there is a lot to consume. Um, and first of all, let me say, for those of you that have just come in, you guys, please share this video. Please share this video. But more importantly, if you know a young woman, whether she's a Christian or not, if you know a young lady who is in a position, if she's in a relationship that is not necessarily conducive to her mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual well being in a positive way, please share this video with her. Um, and then get the book. You have to get this book.
Yeah, so make sure you get the book.
This book is amazing. Um, as you were talking, Chatney, and I'm just going to go off script of the questions that I had for you. I want to say we as Christian, we can look at things from a Christian perspective. And like you said, you've been brought up, in the body of Christ. You've been brought up by the word of God all pretty much all of your life. Well, all of your life, as I have. There's somebody that don't even know who Jesus is. They don't know anything about God. They don't know anything about trusting and faith or anything of that nature. For that young woman, because we're called to help women, but there is no label on what type of woman that is. When we have to speak to the person who does not understand the language, trust God, pray, ask Him. He'll lead you, He'll guide you. By the grace of God, He kept me. Like there are some people that what? It's foreign language. It's foreign
Right.
language to them.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say? Speak to the woman who have no clue who God is. How does she get through? Because I think the principles as it relates to self-worth, self-care, self-respect, self-dignity, that word self in the front of those words means that it's my responsibility. It's my responsibility. And then once I take ownership, then I can add in those other elements, right? And
Right.
and and I don't want nobody. I don't want no Bible instructors or teachers to get on this and be like, she just said you can't depend on God. That's not what I'm saying. That's
Mm-mm.
not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you cannot talk Bible to somebody who don't know the Bible. That's like trying to give an infant a steak. Okay. We got to get to the human part of the person first. That's what I'm saying. So, can you speak to that individual just for a half a second? Speak to that individual who don't know who God is. What do you say to her when she's going through this and she say, Chatney, I'm in this relationship and I feel like this person is holding me back. What do you say to her?
Yes, absolutely. But first, going back to what you just said, though, about taking ownership. Yeah, accountability, taking ownership. First, I had to take ownership and take responsibility for the decision that I had made. Okay,
Yes.
I decided to get involved with this person. I decided to engage in sexual intercourse with this person, not knowing them for a long period of time. I did these things against my better judgment. Why? Or what frame of mind I was in. I wasn't in the best headspace mentally. I will say that during this time that I met him, I know
Mm-hmm.
that I was in a place where I wasn't satisfied or happy about the fact that I had to return back home to Raleigh. I went to college in Greensboro, North Carolina, which was only about an hour and some change from me. And when I came back home to Raleigh at the time that I did back in 2009, I really didn't want to, but it was pretty much my last and only option. And then I had to move back in with my parents, temporarily. And I, of course, didn't like that after being on my own. So I wasn't happy about the place and the state I was in, and I was looking for that escape. I was looking for just something. And so when this person came along and they offered me an escape and a little bit of a sense of happiness, because I wasn't happy about my current situation and my current state. When you're in a state like that, it's really easy for the enemy to send you, something
Yes.
to distract you or get you off track, or that appears like, this is something good, this is, great, but it's not. So first I would say, yeah, you have to take ownership and you have to take responsibility for the decision that you made, and understand that there's going to be consequences behind. There are consequences behind all of our decisions, good,
Mm-hmm.
good and bad. So take responsibility for it, own it. Yes, God will can and forgive you and see you through it, but that's the first part. The next thing is you have to know your worth and your value. Okay?
Yes.
As far as whether or not you have a relationship with God, or if you have accepted him as your personal savior, first and foremost, you have a sense of self-worth and a sense of value. Then there's certain things that you're not going to allow or not going to tolerate. And if you're allowing or tolerating somebody to treat you a certain way, to talk down to you, to disrespect you or any of those things, then that means that you don't have a great sense, you don't have a great sense of self-worth about yourself.
Right.
Or you don't have a great sense of value. You don't really know your value or have a sense of self-worth, because if you did, you would not allow or tolerate certain things from anybody. And so that's what
Mhm.
I had to look at and realize too, that I really didn't value myself the way I needed to. I didn't know my value or my worth, because if I did, you know, I wouldn't have entertained things for even the period that I did. There were some other things that occurred as well that I didn't even put in the book.
Same.
I can't put everything. I did put, a lot of things, but there's some things I left out, just because I don't, think everybody's, ready for those things. But
Right, right.
I would just say for that woman, for that person, that if you don't, if you weren't brought up, not just about being brought up in the church, but if you don't have a relationship with God, or know, the things of God, or know about faith, or have that as your foundation, then first and foremost, you have to check your sense of worth and your value. How do you look at yourself? How do you view yourself? How do you value yourself? Because those things would tell you, would tell you and indicate, okay, that's why I'm allowing this person in my life or in my circle, or to treat me this certain way, or that's why I have tolerated certain things, because I don't know my worth and my value.
Yeah.
And that has to be first and foremost. It does. And then, of course, above that, having that foundation, having God as your foundation, let me tell you, that really helps. I mean, that's always been my foundation. So I have to go back to that. So I
Right,
would
right.
say, if you don't have him as your foundation, then you want to, you want to check that. You want to, ask yourself, okay, do some type of self-assessment, and think about, and consider asking God to be, your Lord and your Savior of your life. Because when you invite him in and you make him your Lord and your Savior, it's not just about you being saved so that you don't go to hell. I think a lot of times in the body of Christ, in the Christian world, period, we focus on that a lot, and that is part of it. But it's about him being your Lord. And when he's not just your Savior, but he's your Lord as well, he's that solid rock that is there to help you to get through anything and everything. So I would say, if you don't have that as your foundation, then you need to go back and revisit that and consider that. That if you don't, you also need to look at and know and ask yourself, do I know my worth? Do I know my value? And also, you need to make sure that you are surrounding yourself with the right people. If you don't have a support system, ask God, to send you the right people, a good support system. Seek wise counsel. Seek somebody that you can go to and confide to and share with, that can give you wise counsel, not just their opinions and not just advice, but you need to have wise counsel. You need to have people that can be able to be there for you when you need a shoulder to lean on or cry on. You need someone to talk to or vent to, not somebody that can't hold water, that's going to tell all your business. And sometimes you may have friends around you, but they may not be the best ones to go to about certain things. So I would say, look at and consider all of those things, because it really helps when you do have, somewhat of a support system around you. If you don't, reach out to different community resources. There are different places, things you can call to speak to counselors or therapists, or anything like that. Go through your local community church somewhere. There are resources out there for us, but a lot of
Yeah.
times we don't
Yeah.
do our due diligence. We don't want to do our research and go and find them and seek them out. So it
Right.
doesn't matter if you don't have a supportive family, or if you don't have a strong circle of friends. There is support and resources out there that will help you, even if you're in an abusive relationship and you feel like you can't get out. There is always a way out.
Yeah.
It may not be your most preferred, or it may not be really obvious. It may require you to do some adjustment or a maneuvering. It may require you to go through people that you don't even know like that. But there is always a way out. But you have to go and seek it out. And we have to stop, have to say, we have to stop wanting to always play the victim,
Mm,
because that a lot of times
that's
that can
key.
cripple
That's
us.
key.
We cannot continue to play the victim. Like I said, we have to own our decisions, own our choices, take responsibility, deal with the consequences. And then after that, wipe yourself up, pick yourself, dust yourself off, pick yourself up, and do what you got to do and keep it moving.
Yes. That right there, that key, you cannot always play the victim. And I promise, I think we've all been there at some point in time. Like, oh me, oh why, oh
Right.
my. But at the end of the day, it's all about going back to taking responsibility. We have to take responsibility for us. Self-worth, self-love, self-care, all self-awareness, self-identity, like all of those things involves us taking responsibility and ownership for who we are. And I was sitting here and I'm just smiling and I'm looking at you and I'm just smiling because I'm just in awe that there are women as young as you that still understands that I don't have to accept anything. And I can remember there being times of listening to, because of where I was at in the relationship that I was in. I can remember listening to certain people around me and them talking about, I'm not going to put up with this and I'm not going to put up with that. And I can remember saying, because I was married, now I was married, and because my relationship with my then husband was not a good one, it was there was a lot of mental and emotional as well as spiritual abuse. And I can remember thinking that I had to hold on to this marriage because, first of all, I had been told that I couldn't have anything different. I didn't deserve anything different. Um, but more importantly, because I had been raised around um, women who were very strong and independent. And I didn't want to be that woman. I didn't want to be that woman who her family was severed and she was raising children by herself. So I was going to make this thing work. Yet I was being, I was being abused mentally, emotionally, spiritually in the process. And like you said, I had to learn how to remove the victim cape. I had to learn how to remove the victim cape and look at it like, Antoinette, you're not the victim here, but you are the victor because you don't have to go through this. And I asked you the question earlier about why didn't you stay in the relationship, and you talked about how basically, and I'm just going to sum it up, it was like this was for a season. I had to go through that for a season in order for me to get to my reason. And I knew that staying there wasn't going to be healthy for me. And so, growing up in a two-parent household, you probably saw things from a different perspective. Whereas me, I grew up in the home with a single mom who there were several people that blew through, that nobody was consistent. And so again, I didn't want my life to be that. I didn't want my kids to know 50 million different men in my life. I didn't, if they lived in my house, that has to be my husband. Like, I didn't want that to be my story. And I didn't do
Right.
it perfectly. Don't get me wrong. I didn't do it perfectly. There were people in between the husbands, but I said all of that to say, I think that it's very important. I think that it's imperative that we exemplify women who have standards. That's it. That's it. Women who have standards. And so many women have put their standards down for the sake of not being alone.
Right. And now that you say that, so I was going to say, yes, we have to get back to a place overall as women. I'm not saying that there, of course, there are women out there that do have them, but we got to get to a place overall, back to a place overall as women, especially Christian women in the body of Christ, where we are going to hold fast and stay true to our standards, like point blank in the period, because we have bought into this lie and this notion from basically from culture, from the world, that it's better to be with somebody than to be alone. The devil is a whole lie, and his mama is too. Okay, it is not better just to be with somebody than to just be
Woo!
alone.
She
Okay,
said the
it is
devil is a
not. I
whole lie,
promise
and
you,
his
it is
mama
better
is
to
too.
be alone. It's better to be alone and to have your peace and to have your sanity and everything else that come with that, and to be with somebody that's working on your head, whether mentally or physically, and you about to go crazy, or you having to put up this facade to everybody else that everything is all good, and everything is all roses and peaches and cream, and it's not. No, it's
Right.
not. And that's really what my network, what Born to Sanctified Divas is all about, is holding fast and maintaining a standard, because women have been laying their standards down by the riverside pretty much, all for the sake of having a man, all for the
Down
sake of
by
being in a relationship,
Riverside.
having a man, even getting married. Okay, I'm telling y'all, don't get caught up in all food and seeing all these, marriage photos on social media. I know how easy it is, how it. I'm telling you, because the enemy will have you thinking everybody's getting married, everybody's looking happy. What's going on? Because I've been there. And sometimes if you have to take a step back from social media, do what you have to do. But social media will have you fooled. And you need to remember and know that everybody that's posting pics on social media of their boo or their bae or them getting married doesn't mean that, one, they are happily married. No, number two, doesn't mean that they are in the will of God with who they married. None of that, because people are all about posting and putting up facades for the most part. Not saying everybody on social media is a fake or a fraud. Please don't come for
Right.
me. I'm not saying that. I know that
Right.
there are
Right.
people that are really truly genuinely happy in their relationship, in their marriages, and it's for real, and it's not fake. It's not just posting for the gram. It's not just for social media likes or clout and none of that. But I'm saying there are some people up there that it's all about posting for the gram and having an appearance. But if you was to go behind closed doors, you would see a
Hmm.
totally different thing. So please don't get fooled by what's being posted out here by a lot of people in these social media streets about their relationships and their marriages, and you thinking that you know you the only one that's single, or you doing something wrong because you still single, and it appears like everybody else is getting married and hooking up. That's the key word. It appears. The
Right.
enemy wants you to feel like that, and once you start feeling like that, it's easier to let your guard down and say, well, maybe my standards are too high. Maybe I need to just
That's it.
accept this or that, so that I will no longer be single. Absolutely not. Absolutely
Yes.
not. The devil
Yes.
is a lie.
Yes.
So I know it's not easy. I'm not even going to try to sit up here and try to make it seem like it's easy being single, or that it's always hunky dory, especially in 2021. No, it's not. Okay? It's
Right.
not. But I promise you, waiting on God's best and who He has for you is going to be worth it. I promise you, not putting up with the foolishness, or with somebody that's going to be driving you insane in the membrane pretty much is not worth it. Just to say that you're with somebody. Know
Right.
your worth, know your value, and if God is making you wait, I promise you it's for a reason. That's the mentality I had to adapt, because a lot of us, we have the wrong perspective and mentality when it comes to that anyway. But like you said, it's about holding on to our standards. I'm not talking about having unrealistic standards, but you do want to have some pretty strong and basic standards in place, because if you do, but somebody comes along that is totally opposite of that, or doesn't meet those standards, then you will not waste your time. Okay,
Right.
so we got to remember and know We got to remember and know our worth and our value, and we got to maintain and hold fast to our standards. I'm really, really big on that, because I can tell you from experience. Okay, lowering your standards, it ain't going to get you no further ahead anyway. Been there, done that, and bought the t-shirt. Still ain't got nothing to show for it. So in the end, hold on to your standards, because
Hold your standards.
I promise you, it's gonna be worth it, and what God has for you is worth waiting on. Okay.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So you know what, y'all, we got so much more to go. And listen, like I said, we still on chapter 1, y'all, because that chapter 1, that like seriously, that's literally like that was a whole book by itself. Like you literally could have went on and on and on just on that random encounter with a stranger. Like I feel like I got cheated because you
Right,
could
right.
like
And I just saw what I like what Lauren said. She said before trying to be with someone, try to like being with yourself first. And that's another thing. A lot
yes,
of people out here, they trying to be with somebody else, and you don't even like you. Do you like yourself? Do you
right,
love
right.
you? Okay, because I love me. Okay.
Period. Period.
Period.
Yes, absolutely. And
So
unfortunately, so many of us don't. There's a lot of us that we're really not comfortable with ourselves. I know I'm not going to even tell you no lie. I ain't gonna front you in. Like I was that person who, for years, I had anxiety so god awfully bad. At one point in my life, like literally, my first husband, he worked, and a lot of times he worked late nights, and I would be in the house. I would literally stand at the top of my stairs. Kids be in the bed. I would stand at the top of my stairs for hours, heart racing, trembling. And I would be telling myself, Antoinette, if somebody was coming in this house, they would be in here by now. Go lay down. I would go lay down and I would jump back up. I did that for about 2 or 3 years. And one of the things that I found out was in the midst of that was I held on to a relationship that wasn't going to grow. It wasn't going to go anywhere simply because I was afraid to be in the house by myself. And I remember when we separated and I moved into my next house, I begged my cousin to stay all night. I begged my brother to stay all night. I begged anybody that would stay all night in that house with me so that I wouldn't be in that house with those kids by myself. Because I knew when they went to bed, I was going to have a full come apart panic attack.
because you didn't
And
want to
thank
be by
God,
yourself.
yes, because
Mm.
I was that afraid of being by myself. And so when the Lord delivered me from that, I was like, oh, so this is what it means. And I began to become comfortable. And so I began to learn how to be by myself. Now, it's hard for me to force myself in certain situations to be with people because I absolutely love, like my sister Lauren said, learn to love yourself, learn to like yourself first. I like me.
Right.
I
Love to
love
enjoy
me.
your own Let me tell you, I'm like you. Like I love
Period.
being by myself. I mean, yes, I enjoy time when I get to spend with, my loved ones and people that I love and care about. But being at home by myself, it don't bother me not one bit. I mean, I enjoy my alone time. I enjoy being by myself. I'm comfortable being in my own company, because if you don't enjoy your own company, how can you expect somebody else to enjoy your company?
Period. Yes, absolutely. One of the things that I do want to point out was you had said, let me find the page. Look, y'all, we spent all of that time talking about them relationships. Them relationships is something else. Listen,
Right.
but one of the things that I wanted to point out, um, this was such a key point, and I'm just gonna make some points here. You guys have got to get this book. She said your process is going to give you the
It's a
street
book.
credibility, and it is what
Mhm.
is going to make you relatable to other people. We cannot be an effective witness if people cannot relate to who we are. If they cannot, if we're talking so far above them, or our situation is so much better than theirs that they can't relate to what it is that they're going through, because they're looking at us and it's like, oh, You're perfect, right? Thank you so much, Coach C, for that link. Yes, go to chatneywhite.com. Get your copy of this book. Make sure
Yes, go
that
get
you
your
share this
copy.
video. Make sure that you share this video so that other women can hear what is going on, and they can learn how to remain consistent in being able to overcome the setbacks that they're going through in life. Because this is very important that we understand that being transparent is what helps other people. And so another point that she had made was she said that there were unforeseen and uncontrollable circumstances that were an inevitable part of that are an and I'm sorry are an inevitable part of living on this earth. There are certain things that we just cannot get around. No how, no way, can't get around it. We're gonna have to. You can't go around it. You can't go under it. You're gonna have to go through it. Also, she said that you cannot wallow in your self pity. No more wallowing in your self pity.
No more
You
pity
can either
parties.
choose to rise and remind yourself of what it says in God's word, that you are more than a conqueror. You will get through your situation. She's a testimony. She's sitting here in front of us looking amazing. She does not look like what she's been through. Um, some people might say that the things that you talk about is all about church church talk, right? But I want to point this out again, that the things that she is sharing, these principles that she shares in her book, these are things that it don't matter whether you in the church house or whether you are in the pool hall. You can take all of these principles that she shares and you can use these in your everyday life. This is not rocket science. Like literally, this is not rocket science, but it's all about remaining consistent. It's really all about remaining consistent. How to remain diligent through setbacks and disappointments. We all have them. We all have them. But at some point, we have to pick ourselves up by the bootstraps. We got to pull up our big girl panties and stop
Right.
crying, woe is me, and understand that you're not the only person that has gone through. You won't be the last person to go through. And there is somebody that have gone through something before you. And they overcame it, and so can you. Chatney, what I want you to do right now is I want you to let the viewers know. Coach C has already posted the link, but let the viewers know how they might be able to find you on social media.
Yes, absolutely. So you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram under Chatney White. On Instagram is Chatney_White if you want to follow me. You can also connect with and follow my Grown and Sanctified Divas Network page on Facebook and Instagram as well. It's under GASD Network on both Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome sauce, awesome sauce. And once again, shout out, woo, 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 to the trailblazer in the house, Coach
Yes, the
C.
Trailblazers
It
in
is
the
because of
building.
you. All right. We thank you so much, Coach C, always for your authenticity, for being who you are. We love you. It ain't nothing you can do about it. Once again, it's your girl, Mrs. Ann, and I am the visionary of Smack Talk, where Smack stands for Sisters, Mothers, Aunts, and Cousins. And my mission is simply to affirm, confirm, mold, and motivate you to be all you were created to be. Make sure that you like and share this video. Tell a sister about a sister about a sister that has let us know that we're delayed, but we're not denied. We do have the ability to remain diligent through our setbacks and our disappointments. We are overcomers. We are more than conquerors, she said. We are more than conquerors. And so you
Yes.
too can go through your situation and come out unscathed and be sitting there looking all pretty like the trailblazer of
Yes.
the year over there.
And let me
So
just say
take
really quick, Mrs. Ann, can I just say that? I know
go
she
ahead,
put
go ahead.
just a reminder, you can go to my website, chatneywhite.com, to purchase a copy of my book, Delayed
Yes.
But Not Denied, How to Remain Diligent Through Setbacks and Disappointments. You can go to my website if you want to get a personalized signed copy by me, as well as if you want to get a nice, pretty bookmark with it. You can go to my website, So if you don't really care about getting a sign and you want to get a copy real quick, you can also go on Amazon. The book is also available on Amazon. So make sure that you go and get your copy tonight if you haven't already done so. Thank you all so much for tuning in.
Absolutely. And also, I just want to put this plug in there. If you are looking to level up in your life, okay, we have none other than the trailblazer, Carla R. Cannon. TCA is open right now. So we got a lot of TCA members here. And listen, if you want to level up in your life, because I promise you, if it wasn't for TCA, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. Chatney, I know she wouldn't be sitting here right now. There's some of us that we would not be doing what we do if it was not for TCA.
Have written this book either.
Listen, TCA is open right now for enrollment. You can go to carlarcannon.com and you can, Coach C, can you go ahead and post your link? I don't want to mess that up because I want people to know that TCA is open. I think there's 4 seats. The last time I checked, there was 4 seats left. And you can go and sign up to work with Coach C. And I'm really kind of jealous. Chatney, I don't know if you have seen the new material that they got, but I'm so jealous because I don't get no box.
Oh yeah, I seen it. Yeah, I was a little bit jealous too, but it's all good. It's all good.
I still say we was the best class, and that's okay. I love you, Sharonda. I love you, Crystal. I love y'all, but we was the best class. I'm sorry. And so, but yes, you can go and sign up for TCA. Go to Trailblazers Coaching. I'm sorry, www.trailblazerscoaching.org. Fill out an application to sign up with Coach C, and level up in your life too, because TCA cannot be explained. It can only be experienced. I love you guys. Have a phenomenal night, and don't forget, go and talk smack to somebody.